Hello everyone. During this lesson, we will learn about working with exception handlers in the Python language. To begin with, let's find out what exceptions are. Exceptions are errors that can be raised by any program. When exceptions occur, or in other words, errors occur, information about them is displayed to the user, the program stops completely, and the user cannot interact with it further. As developers, we do not want to allow such a scenario and want the program to continue working regardless of any errors, without stopping. To achieve this, we need to create exception handlers. First, let's create an error, and later on, we'll learn how to track it. Let's say I want to receive some information from the user. To do this, I create a variable, use the input function, and since I expect the user to enter a number, I immediately wrap this function in the int function. Then, I want to add the number 5 to this variable, and perhaps I would like to display this variable on the screen. Now, if we run the program and encounter a conscientious user who enters a number, the program will proceed without any issues. However, if we encounter a malicious user who tries to enter a string, in that case, we will receive an error called value error. Accordingly, we can create an exception handler specifically for such errors, and even if the user enters something incorrect, everything will still be handled correctly. Let's try to implement this. To create an exception handler, we use the keyword try. In this block, we write what we want to implement. Here, I specify the code that we had before this. If everything goes well, this piece of code will be executed. But if something goes wrong, let's track it. We will track it in the except block, and here I will track a specific error called value error because that's the one that occurred here. If such an error occurs, we will simply display information to the user. Let's write please enter a number instead. Now let's try running the program again. If I enter a number, everything is handled correctly. But if I run the program again and enter a string, there won't be a fatal error. Instead, the user will receive a message asking them to enter a number in the correct format. Such errors are much more user-friendly. We simply track the error and displayed it to the user ourselves. Thus, through the use of exception handling, we can attempt to execute some code, and if an error occurs, we handle it and display information to the user. When working with the except clause, you can handle various errors. Let's say I want to create another error, where I attempt to divide the number 5 by 0. If I try to do that, I will indeed encounter an error called zero division error. You can easily handle it too. To do this, you again write the keyword try, inside of which you write the expression itself. Then you write except and the specific error you want to handle. Here, you can display any message to the user, such as division by 0. Additionally, you can track other additional errors if you need to. For this, you write except again and specify another error, like value error. Here, I'll write you entered something wrong. If I run this, it will give us division by 0. The second except was ignored because the first one was sufficient. In the try, except block, you can write as many errors as you need and check for many different errors. You can take the names of these errors from the console. That is, at the moment when it appears, you will see its name. And there's another very important point, which is that you can write a block called finally at the end. This block executes regardless of whether your code in the try block was executed or whether it was executed in the except block. Inside, let's just write the word end. Let's assume that I won't have any errors here, and I'll enter some other number instead of 0. If we run this, the program gave us the sum result, and still, the finally block worked. And if there is an error, it won't affect anything, and the finally block will execute anyway. This block is convenient to use when working with files, that is, regardless of the work done with the file, we still close it at the end. There's also another operator here called else. This block can only execute if the except blocks didn't trigger. Let's write else here, and if we run this, we'll see that it didn't work because the except block was triggered. At the same time, if everything is correct, the else block will execute, as well as the finally block. In conclusion, I want to emphasize that error handling is a very important topic. It is frequently used when working with files, connecting to databases, and generally when performing various checks and receiving data from users. In the future, don't ignore them because instead of displaying some error to the user, it's much nicer to display some text written by you, and at the same time, there won't be any fatal errors. Our lesson is coming to an end. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to not miss new lessons. Thank you all for watching. See you soon. Goodbye.